Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Please be seated while Councillor Rebetz reads a blessing.
Thank you. Heavenly Father, we pause at the beginning of our meeting to give you thanks for the opportunity of meeting together to make decisions that affect our city. We pray that we might be guided by your word and that we would seek the very best outcomes for our citizens. We pray that you'd give us clarity of mind and that we might do all things in a way that builds up our city and that we treat each other with dignity and with respect. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Councillor Rebetz. We acknowledge as the City of Gosnells the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation, who are the traditional owners and custodians of the land on which we meet today. We pay our respects to them, their culture and their elders past, present and emerging. Just the disclaimer, members of the public are cautioned against taking any action on council decisions on items in which they may have an interest until such time as they've seen a copy of the minutes of the meeting or have been advised in writing by city staff. So I declare the opening of the meeting. Welcome to former Mayor Olwen Searle in the public gallery, and welcome ladies and gentlemen of the public gallery. Record of attendance, we're all here but Madam Mayor, who's on well-deserved leave, and Councillor Kevin McDonald, who has sent in his apologies. Disclosures of interest, councillors? Any disclosures? No. No announcements by me, other than just sitting in the hot seat for Her Worship, the Mayor, Teresa Lyons, while she's on a well-deserved break, but she'll be back in time for the next OCM. Reports of delegates, starting on my right-hand side. Councillor Rebetz.
Just like to report that visited the waste-to-energy plant on Saturday along with Councillor Lloyd, and it was very pleasing to see the construction having progressed so much further than last time we were there, and we're told that the first trial burn should take place late June, so that's not very far away. So if all goes according to schedule, our green top bins will be generating electricity instead of landfill, so that'll be quite exciting. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rebetz. Report of delegates. Councillor Good.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. Councillors, on May the 2nd, Councillor Baynes and myself attended a JDAP meeting, the Joint Development Assessment Panel, via the Zoom to look at an amendment layout for a fast food outlet, motor vehicle wash and a dog wash on Ranford Road on the corner of Belfer. What was interesting about the amended layout was just simply the changing of the actual side of the parking, etc. was going to be on, but this was originally approved back in 2015, then amended in 2019, amended in 2021, and now it's approved now. I'm going, okay, it's 9 years later, can we get this thing built? So if you see a new fast food outlet, a motor vehicle wash, a dog wash on Belfer, on the corner of Ranford, that's what we've approved, and that was on May the 2nd. On a slightly different note, last Thursday, many councillors would be aware I passed on an email from Neighbourhood Watch. And the Neighbourhood Watch had a meeting Thursday, a community meeting in Maddington. In excess of 40 plus people were there, and I know you all would have read that. This is money for people in the gallery and people who wish to tune in. But what was fascinating was not only did we have a number of residents there, but also political people from the political offices of Matt Keogh and Chris Talentire, their staffers were there. West Australian Police Force were there in numbers. I think there were 3 of them there. And what the Neighbourhood Watch did was hand out typically things such as their crime prevention kits, fridge magnets, wheelie bin stickers, CCTV rebate application forms, and even our own staff were there to give a discussion about what we're trying to do. What was fascinating though is the data and the numbers affecting. So this was on Atfield Street, Maddington, in case you're wondering where it was, near Atfield Street and Burslem Drive corner. Western Australia is now the violent crime capital of Australia. 22 violent crimes per 1,000 people. Queensland has 15 per 1,000 people. These figures staggered me, the fact of the amount of crime, the violent crime in particular. Assaults, and this is in the last 7 years, assaults are up 42%, and WA has more people attacked in their homes than any other state. So, yeah, it just amazed me, the numbers. So whilst we have been certainly having a massive population growth, which obviously accounts for significant increase in crime itself, we made sure the police were very much aware, and are very grateful to the city for what it does with the Safe City program and what we've done as a council to encourage people to have the cameras, to be alert. But the message was record things, take notes of things, take your photographs, report to the police always. And I want to make sure that message was out there big time, is we are the eyes and ears of the police. We must report, we must know what's going on and to be alert, because they were genuinely frightened and scared in their homes at this particular place, and they made everyone quite well aware of it. Hopefully some volunteers might step up for Neighbourhood Watch, which would be great. We've had that for over 40 years in our city. So it was a very good community meeting, well attended. I thought you should all be aware of it, and particularly those at home who maybe want to tune in, and members of the audience. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Good, and certainly Lisa in Atfield Street and our former councillor Terry Brown, who's the head of our Neighbourhood Watch, did some wonderful work there that day. Any other reports of delegates? Councillor Williamson.
Thank you. I just have a couple of reports. On Saturday, I attended the Women's Sikh Association Network event on Saturday, and it was a wellness day for women. It was really well attended, lots of community service providers, and the organisers were very appreciative to the city for the grant that they received, and very appreciative to all the City of Gosnells staff. They've been very supportive and very helpful in helping them with their first event. I've also attended Switch Your Thinking, and so a bit of an update with Switch Your Thinking. They have a training session run this week. Switch Your Thinking is running really well at the moment. We're doing a business plan review, and City of Armidale and City of Gosnells and Serpentine Jarrahdale are all working collectively to build a new business plan that's achievable and will deliver great outcomes for our communities. I also attended the Main Roads Regional Road Group meeting last week, and Wellgo is assisting with drafting some advocacy positions for Western Power service relocation delays, and there was also issues raised with other services like ATCO Gas and those sorts of things, so they're helping with those as well. So the Regional Road Group is moving along quite well. The recommended plan for the black spot funding and the draft plan for 24-25 year is still awaiting ministerial approval, but it all should go through shortly. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Williamson. No more reports of delegates. Very good. On to question time for the public and receiving of public statements. So first up, we've got question time.
Kathleen Edmonds with one question.
So we have Kathleen Edmonds of 72 Vulcan Road, Orange Grove, with one question.
Where a rural street has no curbs, no footpaths and deep flood drains to the road edge, what council and main road department restrictions apply to widening the crossover?
To the Director of Planning.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. The council's standard crossover specifications allow crossovers of width between 3 and 6 metres under its normal policy, and where those crossovers crossover open pits, appropriate pipe work needs to be included to allow drainage flow along the roadside open drain, all to the satisfaction of our engineering team.
Thank you, Director. Next question I've got here is for Mr. Leon Walker, 2799 Stafford Road, Kenwick. We don't have any other questions, do we?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Mr. Walker, you've got 4 questions. You can ask all of them.
Thank you very much. My first question is, are elected representatives exempt from any mandated planning requirements which come under the jurisdiction of the city?
Mr. CEO.
Mr. Deputy Mayor, I'm unaware that they are, and I would expect councillors to comply with all of the requirements for any applicant under planning legislation.
Thank you. Question 2. Is it reasonable for the residents, ratepayers and electors of the City of Gosnells?
Your microphone, there we go. Thank you.
Is it reasonable for the residents, ratepayers and electors of the City of Gosnells to expect elected representatives to comply with any mandated planning requirements which come under the jurisdiction of the city?
Mr. CEO.
I would have thought it is.
Question 3.
Sorry, it automatically turns
This
off and it would appear.
isn't ergonomic. Referring to item 13.5.1 on tonight's agenda, is it accurate that the city's current approach is to allow a person to make a public statement on limited, specific agenda items and not, quote, an item included on the agenda for a meeting, end quote, as included in the report?
I'll refer that one to the Mr. CEO as well.
The answer is yes.
Thank you. The question 4 is, does restricting public statements to limited specific agenda items carry the attendant risks of reducing transparency, reducing accountability and reducing public participation?
Mr. CEO.
Mr Deputy Mayor, the standing orders were changed to allow statements to be made on agenda items that Council was making a decision on, and they are the key items that are before Council, so I don't believe it does.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Walker. There are no further questions. We'll move on to public statements. Thank you, Mr. CEO. First, is there another question? All right, give us a moment. We have statements that we're moving on to now. Okay, give us a moment. We've found the question. Leah Skizglak. Okay, over to you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. When the city receives an application, e.g. commercial vehicle parking, does the planning team visit the site or look at it on paper scale?
Director of Planning.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. They go to the site. They look at the site on our GIS, which is our aerial imaging system as well, and they also look at historically how things have been going on that site as well, if there are any concerns or interests there.
Thank you. I've got 3 questions here, is that right?
Yeah, is that all right?
Yep, keep going.
Cool. Are the applicants notified if the city wishes to inspect the property for the application, also with a date and time?
Director of Planning.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Ordinarily, no. Unless an applicant specifically requests a meeting, then we would arrange a time and date. The exception to that would be in the case where it might be necessary to look inside a building, and in that case, from a courtesy point of view, we would make a call and arrange a time. But for the CVP applications, typically it's an external inspection which is conducted without notice.
Thank you, Director. Next question.
If the staff attend a property for an application and see non-compliance, do they report it to the compliance team?
Director of Planning.
Yes, Deputy Mayor.
And then the final question I've got here.
What additional actions are the city taking against 59 Lot 1 Reservoir Road, Orange Grove on the illegal hardstand, illegally widened crossovers and destruction of vegetation?
I'll refer that one to the Director of Business Services.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. We will be in contact with the owner of the property over the next week or so to discuss what needs to happen following the conclusion of the court action, but the hard stand effectively needs to be removed, and those crossovers need to be, well, there's one to Reservoir Road that needs to be removed and the other one needs to be brought back to council standards.
Thank you for your questions. That does conclude now. No? Oh, here we go. A couple more questions. Here we go. They have materialised. Next up I have Mr Brad Davey of 14 Gosnells Road, East Martin. Over to you, Mr Davey. I can see here 4 questions.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. First question is, what are the designated entry and exit roads for Boral use in Orange Grove?
Director of Planning.
You'd have to take that on notice, Deputy Mayor.
So we'll get back to you on an answer on that one. The next question.
Does the council know how many properties are authorised for commercial vehicle parking in Orange Grove?
Director of Planning.
Deputy Mayor, we'd have to take that on notice and provide an answer in writing.
How many approved applications for commercial parking would the council look at rezoning Orange Grove and Martin and obviously getting rid of the Foothill strategy plan?
I'll refer that one to the Director of Planning as well. Yeah.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. The issue of the zoning of the land and the commercial vehicle parking policy, they're unrelated. One's not a trigger or contradictory or complementary of the other. The rural zoning is something that the council has advocated for a considerable period and continues to do so. And the commercial vehicle parking policy is intended to provide a level of reasonableness and flexibility for landowners who might wish to park a commercial vehicle in a rural setting.
The final question, Brad.
With the extra commercial traffic, trucks, even non-compliant truck use in the area, is there any future upgrades to the intersection of Gosnells Road East and Tonkin Highway where it takes 10 minutes to turn left due to large prime vehicles parked there trying to turn right?
I'll refer this one to the Director of Infrastructure.
Through you, Mr Deputy Mayor. Tonkin Highway and Gosnells Road East is actually the jurisdiction of main roads. There is a draft plan for grade separation at those intersections, both Gosnells Road East and Gosnells Road West, but unfortunately we have no idea of the scheduling for those works, but we imagine it is some time off in the future yet.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Davey. We'll get you the answers to those other questions that were taken on notice as well. And then final question time, Omar Gur. I've got 2 questions here, Omar. 2? Okay, go for it. Oh yeah, 2's kind of got 2 parts, doesn't it? Okay, 3 it is.
Good evening, everyone. Is it the police or the council's matter when certain members of the community are taking photos outside properties? I have CCTV and have noted several occasions when certain members of the community are coming outside and taking photos. I have seen this as a complete invasion of privacy, and I have young children in my house, and I do not give anyone permission to do this.
Thank you, Omar. Mr Gur, I'll refer that one to the Director of Business Services.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. That would be a matter that you would need to take up with police. It's not something that the city would regulate.
The next question.
Will the council be enforcing fines on animal owners who do not clean up their own animal feces in public areas?
Over to you, Director of Business Services.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. If rangers have the evidence to issue infringement notice of people not cleaning up after their dogs, they will certainly happily dish out an infringement notice and encouraged to do so.
And my final question. When will the council assess the noise pollution coming from Boral trucks, the gun range and the learner truck driving in Orange Grove, which has a far more larger effect on the amenities and the rural living in Orange Grove community?
I didn't have that one written down, but I'm going to refer it to the Director of Business Services.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. So I think there was the first part of that related to the quarry and the activities at the quarry. So the quarry activities are really licensed by the Department of Mines industry regulation and safety. So their activities are monitored by that agency, as well as the Department of Water and Environment Regulation. So any concerns around noise and dust and those types of things from the quarry really need to be directed to Department of Water and Environment Regulation in the first instance. In terms of truck noise on roads, road traffic is not taken into account in the noise regulation, so the noise regs don't apply to on-road traffic.
I think the two other parts, or I think the other part was the gun club and learner truck drivers. Sorry, just to make sure your question's answered.
Sorry, Mr Deputy Mayor, the learner truck drivers will be included in the road traffic noise, so the noise regulations don't apply to those. I'm not aware of noise from the gun club. That hasn't been brought to our attention previously, so happy to have a chat with you about what the impact is from noise from that facility.
Thank you, Director. Thank you, Omar. Okay, now we have finished question time now. Over to public statements. The first one, sorry to make you, I'll get you back up, Omar, if that's okay. Omar Gurr of 59 Reservoir Road, Orange Grove, on item 13.2.2. It's a public statement.
Good evening, everyone. I am a God-fearing man, and I am compelled to start my statement with a prayer for wisdom, softening of hearts, forgiveness to forgive, and everyone to go home safely tonight. I am the owner of 59 Reservoir Road. I have lived here for the past year. I'm here to speak in regards to my application 13.2.2. By far, I am not a perfect person, nor is none of us here, apart from my wife. I am truly sorry for any mistakes that I have made. I was not aware of the rules and regulations of the city of Gosnells, as I am dyslexic, of Turkish heritage, and I'm born and raised in the United Kingdom. After working with the council, I have submitted my cornerstone application to park my one truck and one trailer on my property within the guidelines of the council, which have stated the approval with conditions, which I completely agree with the exception of point 7. I wish to have it stated that I may be able to leave between 7 and 7 days a week. I am a long-distance truck driver, owner-operator, providing goods to remote Aboriginal communities within Western Australia. I have no intentions of changing Orange Grove into an industrial area, nor changing my property into a transport depot. Most of the time, I am on the road and in the truck, would not be parked on my property. The 1 or 2 occasions that I do come home is to pick up food and clean clothes. I would also like to advise that my truck is my only source of transportation to and from work. This is how I provide a living for my family, and all I ask for is a fair go. I have bought a property in Orange Grove for the rural living, but it has not by far been a cheap purchase. I would like to live in peace with my family and hope that by having this permit approved, which means a lot to me and my family, that in hopes it will resolve most of the issues that the other residents have. So please approve my permit, and together we can make Orange Grove great again.
Thank you, Omar. Next up, I have Brad Davey.
Thank you again, Deputy Mayor and councillors. I'm sure by now that you would realise that I'm a familiar face speaking on matters of Orange Grove. Tonight I ask you to reject the application 13.2.2 development application for commercial vehicle parking number 59, lot 1, 91 Reservoir Road, Orange Grove. We are aware that the applicant previously owned an industrial workshop in Morley, which they sold to purchase the current property in Orange Grove, fully aware it being a rural area, stated on the real estate advertisement and the surrounding neighbours. This is what you could say was a poor business decision, with the lack of thought and planning before purchasing with only financial gain in mind. The only visible sign of rural use on the property is a cow wedged in a tiny pen alongside the residents with no pasture, which I would say is non-compliant, being so close to the dwelling. This painting a picture of where the priorities lie with the business, with no respect for rural life or the livestock. I may not be adjacent to this neighbouring property, but there is only 3 entrances to the area, a main one passing right past my home. The applicant has an easily identifiable truck, which when passing my property has been known to slow down, causing intimidation and blowing the horn, which is a noise disturbance not only for the residents, but the nature and animals. On paper, the application may look like it meets the local planning policy. However, in a real life scenario, the application is not feasible due to the application stating the truck will be entering off Stanleyland Street, crossing the illegally widened crossover into where he proposes to park. If this application is approved tonight, and then there is an application made in the future to legalise the crossover that is being used for the application, and that tonight rejects that application, would no longer work as described in the application, and we can't look into the issue later as a retrospective item and as a whole. We need to look at it as a whole now. With my automotive and industrial knowledge, it doesn't seem to be a viable place to park for ease of movement of the truck and trailer, which will end up meaning that the trucks and trailers are being parked on the illegal installed hard stand. Previously, when the 3 road trains were parked at the property, these were then transferred to the United petrol station on Kelvin Road. This is still happening with the current application in process, giving the impression that there is no wrongdoing by the applicant. The trailers have been stored on the property and then moved back to the United with the number plates removed. If they can store them there to give a false impression of what they plan to do, I'm sure they can find a permanent alternative arrangements. What's stopping him from bringing the trucks and trailers back to the property? Nothing states that the council have been given any VIN numbers, registration numbers of the proposed 1 truck and trailer to ensure proper compliance is had and no swapping around.
Brad, I've got your time's run out. Are you able to wrap it up in a sentence or two?
Sure. So with my understanding, the compliance team is already stretched and under huge demand in Orange Grove and generally in the city of Gosnells. Approving this application puts an unfair onus back on the community. I ask you to reject the application tonight, and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr Davey. Next up I have Kathleen Edmonds, 72 Vulcan Road, Orange Grove.
I'm speaking to item 13.2.2. The conditions placed on the application are noted. I request councillors refuse the application. However, if you feel unable to refuse, then I request that a motion be moved to defer the application pending evidence of resolution of outstanding non-compliance by the applicant. Councillors are all aware of the complexity, encumbrance and cost to the city of non-compliant activity. The applicant shows continued disregard for the rural zoning of their property and no regard for the planning framework and local planning policies. Despite being made aware of the rural zoning and of their non-compliance, they have continued with non-compliant activity. Thus far, the applicant has not shown good faith. Council has taken non-compliance action against the applicant and the applicant has been convicted. Non-compliance issues remain outstanding. To defer the item allows time for resolution of the outstanding non-compliance issues. The current application should not be considered in isolation. This applicant has an apparent agenda of applying piecemeal cumulative approvals, resulting in councillors voting only on one item at a time, that item before them. The applicant has applied only for what is permitted in the local planning policy, yet their trucks exceed size and type permitted in the local planning policy. If the applicant applied for all proposed use and business activity, hard stands, crossovers and the like, all in one application to council, councillors would be voting on the whole scenario. Any councillors driving past the property over the past couple of weeks would not have seen the true picture of this property, as the applicant has parked the vehicles in a rental yard at United Transport in Maddington. The applicant also did this short-term immediately prior to their previous application in March 2024. If this application is approved, it is probable all of the vehicles will immediately return to the Orange Grove property. To use an idiom, you'd have to be blind Freddy not to see what this applicant is doing here. The applicant's vehicles exceed both in number and size that permitted under rural zoning and the LPP. If the application is not refused, I request a motion is raised to defer the decision on this application until all outstanding non-compliance issues are resolved. The applicant should also provide evidence to the city of long-term truck storage facilities in an appropriate zoned area for all vehicles exceeding that permitted in Orange Grove. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen. Next public statement I have is from Ella Louise Randler on 66 Reservoir Road, Orange Grove.
Good evening, Deputy Mayor, councillors, neighbours and our former Mayor. I'm Ella Randler, owner and resident of 66 Reservoir Road, and adjacent neighbour to Omer, his wife Mel and 3 beautiful children. I'm here this evening in support of their application for the commercial vehicle parking permit, 13.2.2. I hold no concerns regarding noise, safety for my neighbours or safety for my family in the area. Coming from a farming background myself, seeing a truck in the yard reminds me of being back home. I think it's the Australian way. However, whether it's a truck, a car or a motorbike, I don't think it matters. It's Omer's only means of transport. Omer works tirelessly and is rarely even home during the week while he travels all over WA, aiming to make it home for the weekend to spend time with his family. After hours of travel, the last thing you want is to be denied any time stolen from spending it with your own family. Allowing Omer to park his truck and trailer at his home allows him this one grace. The unnecessary financial burden of having to pay for parking elsewhere during these challenging times, I believe, makes perfect sense to assist where we can with our neighbours, especially with cost of living already through the roof and the mental stress this can also bring. I hope you consider his application with open minds. Thanks.
Thank you, Ella. Okay, that concludes our public statements, unless there's any other surprises like in question time. I don't think there is. Oh, no, we do have one more. Here we go. Leah. I think I've got the statement without the name, so over to you, Leah.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, councillors and staff. Tonight I ask you to reject the application 13.2.2. It's no secret what major non-compliance issues the applicants have done in the past and still continuing to do today. When you hear the address, your mind goes straight to these words: non-compliance, land clearing, destruction, disrespect, trucks, truck depot. Only now, since going to court and being prosecuted for some of their actions of non-compliance, they've put in an application. Approving this application, in my eyes, is rewarding bad behaviour. Yes, I see you've cleared over half of your property, put down an illegal and unapproved hard stand area, including an illegally widened crossover, to be able to previously park 3 road trains on the property, have drivers come onto the property, leaving their personal vehicles to take the trucks off on jobs, running a full truck depot operation from a rural zone property. Have to told neighbours publicly on the community Facebook page, mark my words, I will always have 3 trucks and 3 trailers on the property. It is my right, it is my block, please get used to it. When compliance started coming into the picture, they hid the trucks and trailers at the United Petrol Station on Kelvin Road to look compliant and are still continuing to do this. But now you've got an application in for 1 truck and 1 trailer. Oh, here you go. What's stopping other people from doing the exact same thing? Approving this will set a precedent that anyone can come in, do the wrong thing, be non-compliant, not getting council approval, doing whatever they please, and then putting an application in and getting approved because, well, we've already done it. There are 14 submissions for this application, all 14 objecting to this application. Please listen to the community. I have been told that morals and ethics don't come into play here, but I strongly believe in this case they should. So I will give you some facts. I know there are some of you who will stand up and speak about how it's an owner-operator application. However, this is not the case. There are too many loose conditions that come with this application. Point 3, staff conditions are designated occupant of the dwelling. Who is the designated occupant of the dwelling? Who, the applicant himself or one of the many people who live on the property, including anyone who rents the other house on the property. The designated driver needs to be named, which should be the applicant himself. Also, in order for the applicant to reach his proposed parking site, he will need to drive his truck and trailer across an illegally and unapproved widened crossover, widened by the applicant to be able to fit trucks and trailers on the crossover, turn and drive across part of his illegal and unapproved hard stand to reach his proposed parking spot. If this application is not feasible, the applicant would not be able to get to his designated parking area if the property had not been illegally modified to suit his needs. I ask you again, please reject this application. Thank you.
Thank you, Leah. That concludes our public statements. There's an upward inflection at the end there, just in case. And we'll move on to confirmation of minutes. Councillors, can I get a mover? The minutes, Councillor Adams, and a seconder. Councillor Lloyd. Councillors, please cast your vote. Okay, that's passed unanimously. Moving on to receiving of petitions and presentations. Councillors, starting on my right here. Councillor Dewhurst.
Thanks very much. I was going to say Madam Mayor.
Been called worse.
Mr Mayor. I just want to provide a presentation to a radio interview I heard yesterday in regards from the DG or the CEO of DUA, who actually threw the City of Gosnells under the bus. And this is in regards to water extraction from the lots up on Douglas Road. And he not more or less said, he actually said that it was the responsibility of the City of Gosnells. Well, I want to correct this, Mr Mayor, and the reason I want to correct it is that it is not the responsibility of the City of Gosnells at all. I mean, we can do certain parts of the policing, but we have no regulatory framework, nothing to actually deal with the extractions of the water. And like what happened in the City of Armidale is that they actually were taking water, there's a place getting water taken out of there, and then the City of Armidale turned around and said, no, we're not going to agree to any further water taken out. Then the state come in and overrode them anyway. So it's very clear in the submission here, in the original document, that the actually Rivers Commission were responsible for it, which is DUA now, and they're the ones that have the expertise. They're the ones that have the expertise and the scientists and that to make these informed decisions. Yes, the City of Gosnells would do the prosecution under the DA, but we'd need to have their evidence there. But I might stand corrected, but DUA have not actually been friendly to most councils, because when matters do actually go to court, their staff don't turn up to court because they're too scared to give evidence. So it's really a toothless thing there. So for the DG to actually turn around and say the City of Gosnells is responsible for this, I've got to call rubbish on that. And you wouldn't like to have heard what I've been saying on the radio, calling out at the radio when I was listening to this, because I've been part of it for over 13 years. I live on Douglas Road. People up there are losing the water. People have lost their water. And it's actually quite interesting, the fact that the state can have a crack at us for wanting to do a fabulous development down around the Mooksy area, but they're concerned about the water there, yet they're willing for the water that actually flows down towards those wetlands anyway. So, I mean, it just doesn't make sense. I mean, left doesn't know what right's doing. But I did find something interesting in this paperwork tonight. Is the fact is that the trucks going up down the hill are supposed to be going on Brooklyn Highway and Chevron Road. They don't do that. I get stuck behind them going up Mills Road East all the time. And I'd encourage any of the councillors or any ratepayers out there, take a photo of the truck and trailer and report that to the council, and because we can actually do something about that and keep those trucks off Mills Road East. Because I tell you what, going up that road at 20 kilometres an hour or 30 kilometres an hour and coming down at 20 and 30 kilometres an hour, just, it does your head in after a while. That's why I talk like this, So anyway, I just wanted to bring that to the council's attention, that and I do appreciate that Mr Mayor at the time, you've actually taken this on board. You're actually advocating this, as the other councillors are now. They're well aware of it. And you've written to the Minister already, but we wanted to go a bit further, and we'll probably be talking about this at the next meeting or the meeting after in regards to how we can advocate and support the community. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Councillor Dewhurst, for your presentation. Councillors, any other presentations or petitions? No. On to applications for leave of absence. Councillors, I've got one here for Councillor Dewhurst from the period of 26th of May to the 7th of June, which includes one OCM on the 28th for personal reasons. Are there any other leaves of absence? Otherwise, we'll move that. I've got a mover, Councillor Williamson, seconded by Councillor Baynes. Let's put it to a vote. That's unanimous. Thank you, councillors. Questions of which due notice has been given. We have none. Items brought forward, we'll skip over that and go straight to item 13.2.1, development application, the Family Daycare 27, lot 85, Packer Street, Beckenham. Councillors, can I get a mover? Councillor Adams and a seconder, Councillor Abetz. Councillor Adams, Councillor Abetz, any debate? Councillors? Councillor Williamson.
Thank you, Councillor Deputy Mayor Hort. I would like to move an amendment to this motion, which reads, I, Councillor Serena Williamson, propose the following, that condition 4 of the staff recommendation be amended to read as follows. The outdoor play area is to be located at the front or rear of the home, located at a minimum of 1 metre from the side or rear lot boundaries, for the following reasons. There is insufficient space to provide a play area at the side of the residence. The amendment clarifies that the play area could only be located at the front or the rear of the property. Thank you.
Can I get a seconder for that, councillors? Councillor Good, did you want to speak to that further? Councillor Williamson, over to you.
Yes, thank you. I just think it's important to note the front of the property has an approved fence. And I think with the approved fence at the front of the property, it's adequate for the children to be playing in that enclosed area, and there doesn't need to be a restriction to be 1 metre off that front fence, as it won't actually have an impact on the neighbouring properties. And I think the clarification with the side boundary is, in the application they had indicated the narrow side area was part of the play area, and with the requirement that was in the original condition, it required it to be 1 metre off that side fence, which actually wasn't achievable. You had about 100 mils to be able to play in. So I think this amendment provides clarity for the applicant and gets 2 good play areas for the children. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Williamson. Councillors, any further comments on that amendment? No. I think it's a very pragmatic response, and well done to Councillor Williamson for picking that up. Let's put it to a vote, councillors, on the amendment. That's passed unanimously. Thank you, councillors. And then back to the original motion. Anyone wish to speak to that? No? Very good. Let's put it to the vote, councillors. One more. Check your buddy, councillors. There we go, perfect. That's a unanimous 11-4. That has passed, if there's anyone in the gallery interested in the 13.2.1. On next to 13.2.2, development application for commercial vehicle parking, 59 Lot 91 Reservoir Road, Orange Grove. Councillors, I'm seeking a mover. Councillor Islam and a seconder, Councillor Adams. Councillor Islam, do you have anything? Councillor Adams? Councillors, any debate? Councillor Williamson. Take your time, Councillor Williamson.
Thank you. So I would like to move a procedural motion to defer, which reads, I, Councillor Serena Williamson, propose the following, that the item under consideration be deferred until an agreed plan is established to deal with the unapproved hard stand, unapproved modifications to Stanaland Street crossover and the unapproved crossover to Reservoir Road, which demonstrates that the subject vehicle has a safe access point to the property and can access the designated parking area before the item is given planning approval. I'm moving this procedural motion for the following reasons. On its own, the parking of one commercial vehicle on the property is not unreasonable. However, the aerial photo of the site on page 16 of the agenda shows that the vehicle will need to traverse the unauthorised crossovers and the unapproved hard stands in order to park in the proposed location. The unapproved crossovers and hard stand have already been the subject of compliance action by the city. A magistrate has found in the city's favour on those issues and imposed a fine. However, the unapproved developments remain. Approving the commercial vehicle parking in the absence of an agreed plan to resolve those issues may mean that council will have to approve aspects of the unapproved development in the future to enable the commercial vehicle to be parked in the proposed location. The approval of this application should not essentially commit council to approving a future development application in respect of parts of the existing unauthorised hard stand and crossover. Council should consider the entire site and how the proposed commercial vehicle parking could be appropriately accommodated. I think that might be... Yep, I think I end there.
Thank you, Councillor Williamson. Now, for the benefit of the council and the public gallery, there's no debate on a procedural motion. I'll just be asking for a second and we'll take this to the vote. And if it's passed... Oh, you do you get to speak?
The mover gets
Oh, you do.
speak to
Apologies,
it.
you get to speak to it. Thank you, Councillor Williamson. But the seconder doesn't. So can I get a seconder, Councillor Lloyd? So, Councillor Williamson, you get to speak to it then, but then, councillors, there's no further debate and the vote will decide whether this is deferred or not.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Hort. So basically on this, I just wanted to clarify that the information currently supplied by the applicant does not adequately demonstrate how the truck and trailer is intended to enter the site and how the vehicle will access the parking area. Without this information, it is very difficult for council to have confidence that the proposed application will not have a detrimental impact on other road users once the unapproved works has been remediated. I believe it is fair and reasonable for further information to be obtained prior to making a determination. I would like to be very clear that deferring this item is not a penalty for past behaviour. It is taking into account the current situation and we need to ensure there is a good planning outcome for the site and the greater area. As such, I request council supports the deferral motion as proposed. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Williamson. So, councillors will put this to the vote. Yeah, I've got a seconder already, and Councillor Lloyd. Just one more vote, councillors. There we go. That procedural motion has passed 8-3, so this item will be deferred and will not be decided here tonight. Councillors, on to the next item, which is 13.2.3. Members of the gallery are welcome to leave if there's no other items of interest to them. There'll be no offence taken, but we'd love for you to stay and see how we work, I'm sure. 13.2.3, proposed reserve cancellation, disposal and amalgamation for Crown Land, lot 1919 Kenwick Road, Kenwick. Can I get a mover, councillors? Councillor Dewhurst, seconded by Councillor Williamson. Councillor Dewhurst, Councillor Williamson. Any comments or debate, councillors? Let's put it to the vote. And that has passed unanimously. Thank you, councillors. Next item up we have is 13.5.1, standardised meeting procedures, submission to the Department of Local Government, Sport and Cultural Industries. Can I get a mover, councillors? Councillor Baines, and seconded by Councillor Adams. Any debate, Councillor Baines, Councillor Adams, councillors? Councillor Williamson.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'd just like to move an amendment to this recommendation that reads, I, Councillor Serena Williamson, propose the following, that the staff recommendation be amended by adding the following words after the word report. Subject to the response to question 33 being amended to read, provisions in relation to adverse reflection on elected members and staff should apply to electors' meetings. For the following reasons, the amendment would remove the proposal in this would remove the proposal in the city's submission that limits should apply to the number of questions a person may ask and to the duration of presentations at electors' meetings. Unlike ordinary council meetings, the annual electors' meeting provides a unique opportunity for electors to engage in open communication with the city, rather than be limited to asking questions of 2 minutes or for a set duration, as is proposed for ordinary council meetings. The electors' meetings provide the opportunity for discussion and follow-up questions if electors feel that their questions have not been fully addressed or if they do not understand the answer that is provided. The annual electors' meeting is an important part of community engagement and consultation and improves transparency and accountability. In addition, the standardised meeting procedures will apply to all local governments, and as such, it's important for Council to consider what would be most appropriate for the entire sector rather than attempt to create rules that would suit the city. There would undoubtedly be times and issues at some local governments where it would not be appropriate for electors to be limited in what they may ask or for how long they may speak, and therefore it would be inappropriate to have such limits written into the regulations. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Williamson. Can I get a seconder, councillors? Councillor Lloyd. Any debate or comments on that, Councillor Lloyd? Yeah. We'll go to Councillor Lloyd first and then over to Oh, of course you do. Sorry, I keep confusing your explanation with speaking. My apologies, Councillor Williamson. Over to you for comment now that it's got a seconder.
That's okay. So I think to clarify what my motion is attempting to do, question 33, the original feedback was proposed that we limit the questions from members of the public at our annual electors meeting. The reason I do not agree with that is that I think the standardised requirements, what they're actually consulting on and proposing is that there's a 2-minute limit to public questions at ordinary council meetings, and that accumulatively it's 15 minutes in total. I think at ordinary council meetings that's appropriate because we're here to make decisions which have timing requirements. But I think the annual electors meeting's purpose is very different. We're not there to make any decisions, we're there to listen to the community. And I think in listening to the community, we need to remember we're not here to assess whether their question is adequate or appropriate, and I think there should be a forum for them to be able to seek clarification, to be heard. And I think one of the things that would be appropriate, rather than being in the regulations, is allowing a council and the presiding member to use their discretion at the annual electors meeting to ensure that each elector gets an opportunity to be heard. But I think that is something within the sector presiding members and local governments themselves can manage, and it doesn't necessarily need to be regulated. So I request you support this amendment and not have additional restrictions for the community to communicate with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Williamson. Councillor Lloyd, now over to you. No, my bad.
I just wanted to say well done to Councillor Williamson. I really think that this is brilliant. This is something that I think it's one night of the year that people from our community get to come out, and the follow-up questions I think are so important. It's one of the things that's always perplexed me about our standing orders throughout our meeting is not being able to follow up if you don't understand something or if the answer gives rise to a further question. So yeah, for me, like I said, it's one night of our lives as elected members that we can give to our community to give a full and total voice. So I'm very in favour of it. We'll be supporting the amendment.
Thank you, Councillor Lloyd. Councillor Rebetz.
I'd just like to ask the question, that if we approve this amendment and if it were implemented into what ends up being the rules, would that limit the right of the mayor or whoever's chairing the electors meeting to actually to cut somebody off who's just going on and on and on and hogging the meeting, preventing others from asking questions? Because I've seen that happen in public meetings where one person hogs it and others who had questions then forget about it, it's getting too late and they don't ask their questions. So just that I would want to insist that the mayor or person chairing the electors meeting would still have the power and the right to say, hey, enough is enough, now we'll get other people to ask questions.
Good question, Councillor Abetz. Over to Mr Cowie.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. Look, it's difficult to answer precisely because obviously the department's going to make some decisions on what the model standing orders will actually be like, and will probably then give guidance as to where you can move outside of them. So I would have thought there needs to be a degree of flexibility throughout the whole range of standing orders to allow councils. But I say that with a degree of caution because the Minister's talked about us all working in the same way, so it's hard to know, but common sense would indicate that should be the outcome.
Thank you, Mr CEO. That answers your question. I take it, Councillor Abetz. Any other comments, questions, councillors? I will take this amendment to a vote then. Just waiting for two more. There we go. Perfect. That's passed unanimously, 11-0. And that brings us back to the original item, 13.5.1, councillors. Is there any comments or debate on that? Councillor Good.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. Excuse me. A couple of things. First of all, I thought it was a very good report and a very good submission, and I want to congratulate the directors and also the feedback from the councillors. I thought it was quite detailed. Interestingly, having supported the amendment, I was actually in two minds about that, but sometimes when you're having a debate and having an argument, you often think, well, who am I arguing with? And when you've got a department versus a government versus a Welga versus us versus about 137 other local governments, I'm going, wow, you could chase yourself around in circles for an hour. And I don't like those debates. I just cut it short because what's the point? Someone at the head honcho can just go, we're doing it my way, and that's it. Matter of fact, typically for local government reforms, the minister just makes a rule and that's it. So I go, what's the point of arguing? But back to my original point, great work, great feedback, great submission, number of ways, but I do also support and encourage the comments that Councillor Betts said in terms of, and I'll call it out, what I thought that the last local electors meeting, we had too many people who just spoke, literally just spoke for the sake of speaking. I thought, what is your question? Or say something. And it allowed to come on, and it could have actually put off other people in the audience. I'm always feeling sorry, particularly in watching body language, if someone's either rolling their eyes or going, oh, would you hurry up? I've got dinner on, or I want to do something, or whatever. They want to ask something, and they're put off. So I think there needs to be, whether perhaps a local law or local rules that we do, so at least the presiding person can actually control the electors' meeting. But it is good. It's their night. They can say what they want to say, but it just needs to be tied up. You don't want to be speaking for 5 hours non-stop. But otherwise, great work to the staff. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Good. I might speak quickly. It's moments like these when we're providing consultation responses that I reflect on our community, when they're given the opportunity to consult on maybe a new park or maybe a DA or whatever it might be, and how whether or not you feel empowered in that process through the response that comes from that consultation. And I certainly don't feel in my time in local government that I've felt particularly empowered in these local government reforms in any of the feedback that we've given. I don't really feel like it's been listened to at all. And that's a nice lesson, I think, for us in local government. We need to make sure that our residents and ratepayers and those that we're affecting know that we're listening and make changes based on that feedback. So not a bit of a tangent, but I'll chuck it in the mix anyway. So councillors, if there's no more comments, we might take that to the amended motion to a vote. On the amended motion. Yeah, not the amendment to the motion, the amended motion. Yeah. Is everyone happy with that? We've got one more vote. That's 11-0. Thank you. That's passed unanimously. On to the next item, 13.5.2, proposed amendments to Council Policy 4.1.7, investment. Can I get a mover, councillors? Councillor Dewhurst, seconded by Councillor Dalton. Councillor Dewhurst, Councillor Dalton. Councillors, any comments? Councillor Saiful Islam.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I just want to ask a quick question. Does the policy allow the city to invest in other types of investment, for example, real estate, to generate extra income for the city, to take some pressure off? And does the city have any plan to do this? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Islam. To the Director of Business Services.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. The policy does allow the city to invest in land, and I'm just looking for the particular clause in there, but it does allow the city to invest in land, but that's typically been investments within the city of Gosnells and for strategic and investment purposes. But
in 4.2, so I might read that out for you. Director of Business Services, with express approval from council, investment is also permitted in land and its development, subject to the requirements of section 3.59 of the Act. Does that answer your question? Very good question. Any other questions or debate, councillors? No, let's put it to the vote. That's passed unanimously, 11-0. And then the last item, 13.5.3, councillors, the proposed policy, applications to keep more than the permitted number of cats. Can I get a mover, councillors? I'm going to move this one, actually. I should move it, shouldn't I? And a seconder, Councillor Dalton, thank you. Councillors, this has been a long time coming. For those in the public gallery not aware, I'm wrapping up my tenure as a councillor at the end of June due to personal and private family matters, and it was probably one of maybe my first 4 or 5 workshops where I had received so much feedback about cats, an issue I never thought I'd be passionate about ever in my life, but it was so overwhelming, the feedback from the community, that something clearly had to be done, that I raised it as an issue to the council at the time, and almost 5 years later, we've had a few little battles with the state government, but it looks like we're making some traction, and so it's certainly, this is not about me, it's been definitely a team effort, but that's why I thought I'd take the opportunity to get that motion up. So thank you, councillors. Any comments, questions, debate? No? We all know the arguments either way, don't we? I've heard it so often in these chambers. So councillors, let's put it to a vote. That's unanimous. Thank you very much, councillors. So that concludes our meeting here on the 14th of March. It's ended at 8 o'clock on the dot. Thank you very much, councillors, and ladies and gentlemen in the gallery.